Hi and welcome to a new video. In this video I wanted to go through the USB applications. So I've gone through the different options before but never really into much detail and actually using your router, however you pronounce it in your country. Basically how you can use your the device for actually using it as a time machine. Is it any good? And then also with our Asus routers, you can see here we have many options if we go down. So if within the web interface, you can access these options again within the app if you prefer. But for this demonstration, I'll be using the your internet browser. So you can see here under the USB applications, we have AiDisk, we have Server Center, we have the network printer server, your 3G, 4G, time machine, and your download master. So as you can see here, the AiDisk that shares files in your USB disk through the internet. So if you download the Asus app, and then you'll be able to access your USB drive or USB stick, in this case what I'll be using for demonstrating. So you can plug that into, in my case I'm using the GT-AX 11000, so that has two USB 3.0 ports. So you've got here the AiDisk. So as soon as you plug that, if you have any files and folders, you can share that using the AiDisk feature across the internet. Then you have the Server Center, so that way you can set up an iTunes or UPnP or an FTP or a network place. So basically it's a network share, so you can then share it with multiple computers, Macs, and also Windows. Then you have the network printer server. So again, this is quite clear, is where you plug in one of the USB ports, your printer, and then it allows you to share it over the network. This one has probably come a bit more not needed anymore, because most our printers now come with some kind of Wi-Fi actually built into them, so and have a built-in share feature. But it's good to see that they're still supporting this. We have the 3G, 4G. So again, this is where you've got a 4G USB dongle, or as it says there, an old, well, if you've got an old Android phone, you can use that as a USB modem. You can use that as a backup as well. So when you plug that in, if your main internet goes down, it should then, after a certain amount of time, switch over to your 3 or 4G backup device. And then you've got Time Machine. So Time Machine basically is the only for Apple MacOS computers. So the Time Machine is their backup kind of service that's built into the operating system, where you can set it up hourly, so it'll back up to the Time Machine, and that means that it'll back up to your USB drive that's plugged into the router. And then lastly, we have the download master. So this is PC only. So basically, as well as you can see here, you've got the install, so you can download the app, and then basically you can use this to download software from the internet or other things that you want to download. So first of all, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my standard memory stick that I've got, and that's just a Kingston, about 120 something gigs. It's USB 3.0. So to give you an idea, I've just run a speed test. So as you can see on the speed here of the Kingston, so I'm getting write speeds of 23 megabytes per second, and then I'm getting a read speed of 250.88 MB. So as you can see here, this is not the fastest, so on the read speed, but on the write is quite slow, but it's the only spare memory drive I've got. So in this case, I will be doing it over, say, the Time Machine and also the network share, copy and back. To see if it is a viable option, I'm going to be first doing it over Wi-Fi, and then I'm going to be doing it over 1 gig Ethernet. So that's more realistic to most people have got. I could do it over my 10 gig Ethernet connection, but It's a bit unrealistic because most people don't have that kind of connection. So I'm going to try and make this as real world as possible. Okay, so we're going to go on to next is I'm going to plug it in the USB drive into the back of the router, and we'll start going through the options. So now I've plugged in the USB drive into the USB 3.0 port on the back of the router. So now it should be automatically recognized, and normally you'll be able to tell that by either going into network map, or there's a USB type icon on the top of your screen, and it should, when you hover over it, you can see there's storage USB application, your top right hand of the screen. So that will show you that it's actually been plugged in correctly and it's been recognized. If it hasn't been recognized, it might be because you haven't formatted it. So it is a bit of a fussy old standard, and it uses FAT32 to actually be recognized. So it's always best to go in there, and you can format the USB drive if it's not formatted in the right format, and it will show you there again. So the first one we'll look at is the AiDisk. So as we said, this is the share files in your USB disk through the internet. So for this, you will need to download an app on your phone, so Android or any other device, iOS device, to actually download and then to actually access your files, as it says. So the actual name of it is a bit of a different name, so don't be confused. It's actually called AI Cloud. So that's the name of the app that integrates into where you can access your shared files and everything else from your router using Asus. So again, that is called AI Cloud, and then once you go in there, it's very straightforward. Again, as you download it, I'll put it on screen, the actual what the app looks like, and then once you've gone through your Google Play Store or your App Store on iOS, you just log in with your normal router login and password, and then you should be able to see all your drives and devices there. So again, I'll put a screenshot up so on the screen, so you'll be able to see what I can see. So once you've done that, you can go into AiDisk, and it should actually bring this up here. If it doesn't and it brings up there no disk found, that means your USB drive hasn't been recognized, so you need to make sure it's formatted. You do have the option here to go to advanced file sharing configuration. So what that will do is it will take you back to the original USB applications screen that we were just in, and take you to the shared, like the servers and everything else. So if we click go, you'll be able to see here that it's like a very quick 1, 2, 3 step. So this is setting up an FTP server. So you want to be having a look to see if you want to be setting up a user as a admin, or limited access, or limitless access rights. So it should here have on the first user is your normal user password and everything else. So this will be your admin that you use to log into your router. But again, you can set up other users later on. So we'll just leave it as admin rights, and then we'll click next. And then it will give you try and set you up a domain for your dynamic DNS. This shouldn't change, but if it doesn't, then you can actually just say I'll use this. So this will be your web address where you can access your router and information securely. And again, it will randomize this kind of first string of it. So make sure you take a record of it, because it's a bit unusual and randomly generated. Again, you can have the option to disable if you don't want to use that service with Asus, and you can go ahead. So you can click next, and it'll say configuration is successful. Your shared folder in settings is admin rights, and you click finish. It will apply the settings. Sometimes it may restart the router, but majority of the time it won't need to, and it'll just go straight across. So now you can see there, after configuring the settings in AiDisk Wizard, refer to the information below. So you can see here we've got the dynamic DNS that we had, that Asus web address that would show here if you enabled it. And then you've got your LAN FTP address. So this is your local one. So this will be your local IP address. Again, it's saying here for advanced file sharing configuration, please click here. We'll go on to that into the next screen anyway, so that will just take you there. And then it says it'll give you a warning that the AI disk has been set. If you set the AI disk again, the previous account and password and access permissions will be reset. To add more account, please click here. And as we said, you can edit the account profile by clicking here as well, or clicking reset if you want to go there. So we'll just click this blue one here to go back, because we're finished with the AI disk and setting that up. And we're going back. So as we said, you know where it showed you in the previous screen where it said there, please click here for advanced settings. Basically, the advanced settings takes you to this server's center tab. So if we click that, it will load up the screen. So here's where you can enable the iTunes server. So if you do want an iTunes server, you can select it here, and then it will give you the name of your router and everything else. And then also if you want to have a media server, so a UPnP media server will be able to view this on any mobile device, your tablet, so that's Android, macOS, Windows and iOS devices, tablets or iPhones, or anything like that. So most devices will be able to recognize it. Again, it will automatically populate here, but you just type in what you'll want to do. So you can just say my router share, and then you've got there the media server status, it's idle, and then the media service path settings. So you can either choose a manual one or all disks are shared. So you can just say, okay, I just want to apply that, and then it will switch it on. Again, just be wary that it may reset your connection, so your Wi-Fi devices might disconnect for a few minutes and everything else when you're enabling these options. So again, as we said here, you've got these options up the top here. So if we quickly skip this one and just go to the FTP share. So as we said, this is the one we set up originally in the previous option. And this is where it says we've already enabled it. Here you can enable WAN access. So WAN is your internet access. So of course, if you want to use your AI Cloud app to access this, then you need to make sure that's switched on. You've got the anonymous login. So basically, as it says here, username and password is necessary to log in to FTP service. But if you switch this on, then anyone can log in. So please keep that off. Enable TLS support. So that means it's a secure connection and things. So basically encrypting it. So you want to make sure that the this is switched to yes and kept to, it should be default, but if it is not, make sure that's yes. You've got maximum number of concurrent connections. So that means that how many people you're connecting at the same time to your router is defaulted to 5. But you don't want to overload it and put too many connections going through. So 5 should be enough for most households, but you can increase this if you need be, if you have a lot of people connecting at the same time. Again, just remember that the more people connecting all at the same time are using the same bandwidth, so it'll put more stress on the router. And again, it depends on what router you've got. If you've got like a new GTA XE 16000 that has a quad core but also 2 gigs of RAM, of course it'll be able to hold more than the older ones that have only got a quad core and 1 gig of RAM. Again, it depends on the different things that you've got running. So put it up to what you feel necessary, and then if you do notice a slowdown, then perhaps just bring it down to a reasonable amount until you see if you have any issues. Again, you just hit apply if you do enable any of these to set it. Again, with this here, with the character set, you just want to leave that on UTF-8. But again, you can change it if you want to go to your big 5 for Chinese or Russian or Czech and things like that. If we go down here, so now you'll see here where we've got users. So you can see my actual router name. Then you've got here the actual drive. So you can see here where you can create folders now. So if you want to create a folder, you might have like here, so don't think you can't add it on here. Even if you have one drive, it will just go down again. And now you can click the plus button. It'll bring up and ask you the folder name. So we can just say test. And then again, wait for it just to load up and everything else. It is pretty snappy, so it's not going to be too slow for waiting it around. Again, you just click on that again, and click on again, and now you'll see your test folder here. Again, you can set the permissions so you have different users. So on the left hand side is your default user, that's the admin you log into the router with. If you click the plus here, you can set up a new user and things like that. So here you can set this up with a password and then click the add. So then you can then set default permissions. So if you had several users through the family, so some people you want to have read write, so you'd select this option like it's on now. And if you just want people to write to it, then that's fine. And then you've got read only or no access. So if you have a private folder for each member of the family, you can set that just to one person or one user, and then all the rest can be no access. And then as an admin or the parent, you can set yourself read write access to all the folders, or other family members. If you're sharing media or photos, you don't want to get them to accidentally erase anything or delete anything, then you can just give them read access. So then they can just basically read the file, access the file, but it would be read only and they can't delete anything. So again, you can just go back here. If you want to create another folder, we can just say this is test2 and add again. And it will load up. And as we said, you just click on here to keep going down. And you'll see here, like we said, I want this user to only have read access only, so they can't delete anything. Then you can click save, and that'll save that user. Then you click on the next user, next, and so on. If you come to a folder, so test2 folder, we've got test2, and you want to get rid of it, you can see up here you've got a minus, so you can click on that and that'll actually delete the folder. We'll cancel that for now. And then also, if you do want to edit, you can edit them as well. And this is just editing the name, not the files within the folder. You can just go here and then you can modify the name using the pencil icon here. So it is very straightforward for people to access. So if we go back to the network share, so here is again is a different one. So this is enabling sharing. So this is basically, this is an FTP share. So not many people probably want to use this one, to be honest with you, because you'll need an FTP client or a browser. But most people will be using this one here is the Samba network place. So that's where macOS can access it, Windows, your iOS device and everything else. So I'd advise, if anything, is that you do switch off enabling FTP. I know it's got there, it sets it up on the first one for you, but you don't really need it. Again, if you're like in my situation where you just want to share shared folders, I would just switch the FTP off. Again, you're using more of these services, you enable more resources you're using and slowing down your router. So if you're not going to use that FTP, like in most cases, then you can switch it off. But of course, if you have got a specific reason for it, then do so and go ahead. So I can just go here and enable, and then you'll see here, are you sure you want to share this disk, basically disk to the network neighborhood? So that means your internal network. Then you click OK, and it'll apply the settings. You do have the next one. It says allow guest login. So basically right now, our username and password is necessary to log into this folder. But if you do want to allow guests to access, you can just switch this on, and then anyone on your network can access it. You've got your work group name. So again, that is defined within your Windows work group, network settings. And to be honest, I don't think anyone ever changes it, but if you do, you need to change it here so it matches what's on your Windows PCs. We've got your concurrent connections, as we said here, so you can cover over it, and it will give you a quick pop-up guide on here, so a tip. So it's saying it's the maximum number of concurrent connections from the network neighborhood, or basically your network. Some FTP clients may establish more than one connection. Setting this number too low leads to a failed login. So basically it's talking about FTP. So if you're not using that, that doesn't really apply or anything like that. Again, as we said in FTP share, as we went through previously, it's the same option here again. We can come down here and you can see there we've got the two folders there we've set up. You've got here where you can add a new folder, delete one and edit the current one. And also here you've got there where you can add a new user. You can delete a current user, and then also you can modify an account. So if we just say, okay, I just want anyone to access it. Of course, I don't really recommend this, but for testing, we'll just use this so anyone can log in. So it says there, by enabling allow guest login, any user in the local network can access your network folder without authentication. I assure you want to enable. So it's basically warning you not to switch it on. So I'm only doing this for demonstration purposes, so it makes it easy for me to actually log into the shared. And you'll see once you've switched that on, anyone can access it. So these permissions here and your users is grayed out because it's not valid anymore, because you're allowing everyone to access it. And then we have the media server. So as we said here, we set up before, so we've enabled already our media server, and then you've got the iTunes as well, and I think most people will be using. So if we go back here and then we go to the network printer, so as we said before, if you've got a network printer connected into the USB ports, you can switch this on here, and then you can be able to access your printer. Again, it's got some FAQs for Mac, Windows, and also for if you want to download the Windows only version, basically there's an application you can download to access it. So if we go back, now we've got the 3G, 4G dongle. So again, you just got to be wary where it says, like on the support here, is it does support only certain, it's very specific on the actual 3G or 4G dongles that you get. So if you are looking for them, some of them are quite old now, so you might only find them on Amazon or eBay. But as you can see here, there is quite a few there, and it also does list here mobile phones. But you can see how old these are. I mean, it goes back to Galaxy Note 1 and Galaxy S3. So I mean, we're on the 23, but of course they jumped the numbers. But it just shows you these are quite old, so they haven't updated this for a long time. So I've tested this in the past. It's a bit hit and miss with this feature, but if you do have these ones, these are the ones that are tested. And you've got here, like you can see, in the US and United Kingdom, there's hardly any that are actually supported. So they haven't updated this for a very long time. So moving on now to Time Machine. So this is if the backup server for macOS, or if you've got an Apple computer. So you can just click on here. It does give you a simple steps on here to how to enable it, and also it does recommend just be wary that you are using an Ethernet connection for your initial backup at least, because normally the first backup, as we know, is going to be many gigs. So if you've got slow Wi-Fi, then it may take more time. So it's best to perhaps plug into if you've got a long Ethernet cable, just plug that in initially and then unplug it afterwards, and then your other updates are going to be smaller incremental updates, and it'll be less data going through, so you can use Wi-Fi if necessary. So we'll try this out later on and see what kind of speeds we're going to get. So it says there, first of all, you need to enable Time Machine. So we just click here to click on. It's going to give you a backup path, so please select the USB storage device that you want to access. So you click select. So now it's saying there this is our drive that we've got plugged in, the available space and the total space, and it's currently active. So we can click on that one, and it should give you basically a file path here of where it's going to be backed up to. Next is the Time Machine volume size. So we've got available 100 gigs. So 0 is unlimited. So normally you're only going to want to back up however big your drive is. But of course, if you've got a 500 gig hard drive on your Mac or bigger, then you're going to need a very bigger drive to actually back up on here as well. So just remember that when you're buying either a USB drive or anything like that, it's got to be enough storage to back up your hard drive or whatever files you select using Time Machine. So I'm just going to leave it with 0. So hopefully it won't try and use everything that's possible. So then we just click apply, and then you just give it another few minutes while it loads the settings. Again, it's quite quick where it loads the settings, and and you'll just see it refresh and everything else, and you'll see it switched on. So then we just go back again. So then basically it does say here, once you've selected everything, you do need to go into your Apple computer in the time machine settings in your general, and then also Apple time machine, and then you need to go in there and select this drive that's going to be showing. So if we click back, and then next we've got is download master. So again, this is where it's Windows only again, I'm afraid. So if you've got a Mac, you can't really use this feature. This is basically just for Windows. So if we go into that now, I'm just going to log into my Windows machine and we can have a look to see what the app looks like. So I've just logged on to my Windows 11 machine. So first of all, you want to make sure you want to type in the model of your Asus router. So if it's going to be the GT-AXE 16000 or the GT-AX 11000 or Asus, what other router you've got, then you just type that in, and normally just type that in along with the word firmware into Google. Then it will should take you to the asus.com support website, where you can actually see this screen. So normally you'll have the top here, it says drivers and tools, and then you've got the BIOS and firmware. So again, that's the firmware upgrade files. So we're interested in driver and tools. So doing this video, I have noticed that if you go to I've got Windows 11, so that's the latest version. So if you do go to Windows 11 and you go to show all, it doesn't actually give you any options there to download any tools for the download master. So you can see here for Windows 11, it doesn't look like they've actually got a version that's under here that supports Windows 11. But if you go to Windows 10, so I've got Windows 10 64-bit, and you can see here the Asus Download Master utility for Windows. Again, it fits Windows 10. It will actually still support Windows 11. So it's backwards compatible, so it shouldn't be an issue. So all you do is just click download. The file should then download to your downloads folder. As you can see, it here's downloaded here. Again, you just extract. This will just be a zip file. And inside here, you'll have the actual application. So this is the installer. So then you'll just need to install this application within your computer. So again, you just go through the security, select whichever language is your preference, and wait for the installer to, again, as we said, even though you're selecting Windows 10, you might have Windows 11, there's not going to be an issue. So you just go next, select where you want to download, next again, and again, leave the default name on there, so it'll create a new folder in your applications. You can see it installs. It's all very quick and straightforward, and you can say finish. So we can close this off now, and we can take that down, and you can see on here I've got now a new download master. So you've got the application is installed, and it's installed an icon on your desktop. If it hasn't, it should be in your on here in your start menu as well. So if we just double click on here, so this is specifically for downloading torrent files. So you can download your latest ISOs for Linux or any other kind of files that you want to download from torrent. So this actually is quite handy. So you've got a wizard that will walk you through, so you just make sure you agree to download the terms. Here you can then log into your Asus router, so you can do a general and then enter your account name and password. So this is going to be your router login details. If you have any issues, just make sure that if you can't log in, and you click on advanced and make sure that perhaps you do have secure. So select HTTPS, and that should sort the issue out. Most of the time, I think most routers now have a secure connection. So if the general doesn't work, first of all, go to advanced and just do the drop down for HTTPS as a connection, and then log in there. So then once you click next, it will log into the router, and then you'll be able to choose there. So it'll give you this option here where you can connect to your remote Asus if you have the details, but not all the time you can just do auto detection, and basically it will find the server and connect to you. So once you've connected, this is the actual download master utility. So as you can see here, you can got add task, remove your task, pause it, resume. So like this, you can think of this as actually a BitTorrent download client. So you do have add task. So what it means is that it wants you to open up a torrent file here. So if you have a torrent file, you've downloaded for whatever item you want to download. You just click on that and click open. It'll add it to the queue, and then it'll start downloading it via the router onto your USB drive. You've got here also the remove. So if you're downloading something, you can just highlight it, remove it, pause it, and then if you want to resume it, you can. You've got pause all of your downloads, resume them all, and then once they've completed, they will stay on this list here in this part of the screen, and you can click here to clear the ones here. You do have some settings that you can update. So you've got here the connection test, and just make sure that you've got all these details here connected local. So you probably won't be using it remotely, so you just want to be doing it on your home network. Again, you've got your BitTorrent information here. So around encryption, if you want to use your maximum unlimited download speed. If not, you want to throttle it, you can put the speed here. That's always a good idea if you've got other people using the internet, you don't want to throttle everything. Again, you've got your maximum connections. So there's plenty of actual things here that you can set up, and also encryption. You do have Usernet downloads as well function. So again, if you have the login details, and then you go there, and you can also tick this to make sure it checks every time it starts up for a new version. So again, yeah, so as we said, this is quite a good little app kind of thing. If you don't want to download anything, you just want to download it via the router, you can switch off your computer and the router will continue downloading all of those files onto the USB drive, and you don't need to have your Windows running all the time. You know, like some people leave their PC running, then this will actually be a really handy app if you download a lot of torrent files. So that's one good thing that you can use for the Asus. Again, so what we're going to do now is that we'll just move on now to actually having a look to see at the network share and how we access that. So now on the Windows machine, we're going to have a look to see if we can see that share that we've set up on the Asus router. So I'll just go into my normal file explorer. You can either choose go to network. So you can see on the option here, network, and you can see there we've got under media devices, we actually have my router share that we set up. Under media devices, that was the UPnP media server that we set up. So here we can then, if we do have any of our folders, any pictures or mostly movies, we'll be able to play that in Windows Media Player or any other media player you've got, because now that's set up as a media server. So you'll be able to stream and everything else from there. Then you've got, if you go to this PC, you'll see there we've got the device here again. So if I just click on that, you'll be able to now see where we can store videos, music, pictures, but also we've got browse folders. So if we just click on that one, and then you see here Kingston. So that's the actual name of the USB drive that I've actually got installed on my, I've actually inserted into my router. And again, if you remember the folders we set up, we've got test and test2. So here they actually are, so you can go in here, and here's where we can perhaps have a look to see if we want to add a new tab. So again, we can use this application here. We can just copy this one. We can go, if I can actually find the option, do it properly, copy, and then we can go back here, and then we can copy it across into here. Let's have a look. If you'll allow me. So it's saying the folder is empty. Let's try test2. Let's try a different way. Let's see if I can drag and drop into there. So it's currently not allowing me access, even though we've got guest access enabled on both of these drives. So what we'll need to do is just go back and then double check to make sure we have got the right presets all set up. So after some troubleshooting, because I've been unable to access the files that we've set up using Windows, I've just found out that due to the incompatibility, so basically in Windows 10 and Windows 11, they actually upgraded the connection of the SMB to 2.0. And there was an older version, a 1.0, and that was seemed to be much less secure, and there was some vulnerabilities in it. So Windows, of course, rightly disabled it by default, so you cannot access using that protocol anymore. But the Asus routers have not been upgraded, so you might be able to see the folders like we have on here, but everything will still be read only. So if you do have Windows 10, there is a workaround where Asus have given you information here around, and I'll put it in the description, where you can have a basically do some configuration and install the actual file sharing support for the old version 1.0. Again, this is not ideal because, as you can see here, this is from last updated was 2023 on the 9th. So you can see here where it goes through and updates it and everything else, and Asus still have not updated this part yet. So this is the reason why we can't access the Asus network storage, as it says here, since Windows 10 and then of course Windows 11. If you don't do this little feature here by enabling it, then you won't be able to access any of the folders and anything else here. Again, I'll put the link in here to the FAQ, how it explains it. Again, it's not really good from Asus to still be supporting such an old version of version 1, especially with the security vulnerabilities that it's been known to have. So I thought with all the upgrades that they've been doing over the months and everything else, and especially in the past year, that they would have upgraded this by now. And I'm using the latest firmware and everything else, so just be wary of that if you are using Windows 11 or even Windows 10. This is going to be a sticking point, and that's the majority of people. You're not going to be able to access these folders without accessing this FAQ and doing this workaround. Hopefully they will enable version 2, and with the updates and everything else, I do presume that they eventually will do, but it's a bit bad on their side that they still haven't done this after so long, especially that we're already at H2 of Windows 11, and they're already talking about Windows 12, and we still haven't got this update. So that was the sticking point. So I just thought I'd let you know if you are having any issues around that, and that was the issue I found around this. So as you can see here, we'll go back to the main page. So again, that actually puts a stopping point onto the actual using of the server center. So right now with that issue, I would say this is not really worth switching on because all the trouble and everything else. So it is a shame that you've got a feature there that could be really valuable to you for using to sharing your folders, and if you want to use it in Windows and everything else, you can't actually set it up under the Samba. You can set up, of course, still the FTP if you want to and access it that way if you have an FTP client, but again, it's not very user friendly for most clients and the end user, where we just want to plug it in there and actually use our operating system built-in features, and we're not able to do that without the workaround. Okay, so let's have a look now at Time Machine and see how that works. So now I've logged into my Apple computer and it's running the latest macOS. So you go into your settings, that's the grey cog icon, and then go to General, and then you go into Time Machine. You'll see here where it says about the Time Machine and setting this up. So you can see I've already got a Time Machine set up on my NAS. But if you want to have a look and then set up your router, so the Asus that we've just set up, as you can see here in the background, you just click the plus icon. So if we click on that, it should automatically be recognized. So if you have any external hard drives, then they will show up first, and then you'll be able to see the router. So you can see here it's showing up. So you can just highlight and click on that one, so you can see that it's going to have the name of your router, .local. So that's the one you need to click on, and then you click on setup disk. So it'll start to mount the disk and then give you any confirmations about you to connect. It may ask you to enter your name and password for the router. So again, this name and password is going to be your login details for the main router. So you just need to make sure that you have these to hand. So we'll just quickly log in now. So we'll just go to with our login details. And once you've entered your username and password, so again that's your admin and not your Wi-Fi password. This is your basically admin password you log into the router with. So then you can just click on that and it will start to mount the drive. And then after a amount of time on my one, for some reason it's going a bit slow today. Once you've gone on there and logged in, it will then actually start to mount it to your drive and then start to use it as a backup device. So that's quite an easy one to actually start using. And then once it's set up, you'll start seeing the time machine will then start to back up to the drive. If you do have any issues, it may be because it's not actually getting recognized under here. It's not been added or anything like that. And that may be because you're got your drive. So you can see here my hard drive is trying to back up is 500 gigabytes. I've only got 113. So it's going to give you perhaps an error and a request that you only back up certain files. So just be wary of the size again, like I mentioned before, and then you'll be able to set it up. And again, it's quite straightforward, as we said. Plus, select the backup and then set up the disk. And then you just enter, if it does ask you for your username and passwords, you just enter that information and connect, and then it'll mount the drive and then start to use that as your time machine backup device. So that's going through the options, and as we said, it's quite sad to see that the some of the server center options and everything else are not really fit for purpose, and they should have been upgraded a long time ago. As we said, that is a shame. But some of the other options here, like the time machine, and then also the media server that you can set up, you can actually go through, and also might be valuable to a lot of people is the download master using the torrents. If you do download a lot of that, you can actually off basically that to your router to download to the USB drive, and you can switch off your computer, saving energy and everything else. So hopefully you've enjoyed this, and then we've gone through it together and actually found out the issue that we've got if you do have with the network place and then the SMB drive that you're trying to set up, and reason why you couldn't get it connected. So hopefully we've gone through the troubleshooting of that, and as we said, there is a workaround for you if you do want to set this up. Again, the reason why it was switched off is because there was security vulnerability. So I would advise normally myself is not to switch it on, but it is still there for you to choose, and if it's going to be your internal network, then it should be fairly safe for you. But once they update and everything else, I'll update the comments and to let you all know. Okay, great. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. As usual, if you have any comments or questions, please leave them in the comments section. I know sometimes I'm a bit slow, so I do apologize. In the last few months, I've been a bit having some problems. So basically it's taken a lot of time away from answering everyone, but I'll try and get to everyone as quick as possible. Thanks for watching and have a great day.